Hi. Been gone for a while. I was at my sister's for about a week, close to helping her after surgery, and promptly came home and got sick for a few days. But I am trying to do this more frequently, so I'm going to go in and see what I'm shown. So let's start there. I'm looking at my place in nature, and it's nighttime. That's not quite true. It's more like dusk, but there is the word that's coming to mind is heavy presence, but that sounds negative, and it's not. It's the heavy presence of the most comfortable, soft, weighted blanket that you've ever seen or felt, I guess. This is presto. And it just feels so warm and enveloping and inviting and comforting. Everything kind of has almost a grayness to it. It's weird because the visuals are, you would think of that as, you would think that good visuals are, bright sunny day and, idyllic meadow or, whatever your idyllic nature scene is. But this isn't. This is dusk. This is, it's gray, but it's not a dull gray. It's just a beautiful, comforting gray. When for those of you who watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer back in the day, there was a point where they had brought her back from the dead, and she said, everything was soft there. It was not harsh and bright like it is here. It's that kind of softness where it's not dull or dim, or it's just this softness where you can keep your eyes wide open and you don't have to squint against anything. It's just so comfortable. All right, I've done describing that. What do you want to show me next? They're showing me that stream imagery again that's going off to the south, in where my place in nature would have been in real life. And it's going into like a sunrise. And the sun is kind of staying there. I don't get the impression that it's, rising. It's showing me the dawn of a new day. What else do you want to show with that? We kind of went over this last time. Okay. They're showing me hundreds upon hundreds of spiders coming down on just, web filaments. They're just everywhere, like rain almost. Just little black, nondescript Charlotte's Web kind of spiders. And they're covering the earth in webs. I say the earth. I'm only seeing, this portion. But my sense is that it's covering the earth. And it's not, when you think of spider webs, you think of, catching the fly and wrapping the fly up so you can eat it later. I guess that kind of is the analogy. Except there's, so there is destruction involved, I guess. is what they're telling me. Because I'm like, when we tend to think of, when spiders wrap up, the insects they're going to eat, we can tend to think of that as, destructive or negative. And it's not that. This is more like a cocoon. But it's covering the earth. I've seen pictures of places where there's like mega spiders and they just cover everything. It's kind of like that. But the idea being that, it's more like a cocoon. So they're telling me that this is more a message for the awakened collective, that for us, things are going to be kind of muffled, underneath all this cocoon-like webbing. It's like many people talk about, where you've got the caterpillar going into the cocoon and becoming goo, literally completely breaking down before it reforms and emerges as a butterfly. They're covering the earth in this, and the earth is changing underneath. The earth is, I don't get the sense of goo per se, but I see like a lattice, and the lattice pieces are falling apart, or are breaking apart and kind of reforming. It reminds me very much of the movie Contact, where they got those sheets of paper. Well, they got those data packets, and they were like sheets of paper, and they couldn't figure out how to put them together until they did it three-dimensionally and made it more of a three-dimensional thing. So the lattice is coming apart and reconnecting in ways that we don't expect, ways that we don't typically think are possible. And that's all happening under the surface. And we, as the awakened collective, have the webbing is almost like a cushion for us. We're above the webbing, and we are able to bear witness to everything that's going on under the web, the lattice work, and the changing and the shifting and the reconnecting. But there's that layer of the webbing is like a layer of protection for us, unless we choose to really dig down into it and embroil ourselves in that. We have a layer of, I don't want to say separation, and I hate to use the word protection, because we don't need protection as long as we don't live in fear. But I can't think of the word, but something equivalent-ish to a layer of protection, a layer of separation. We're not separate. We don't need to be protected. But it allows us to look at all the changes happening from a different perspective, so we don't have to become enmeshed in, the things that are happening, politically, geographically, nature, all the Russian earthquake that just happened, all the wars that are going on, the starvation, I don't need to belabor the things that are going on in the world right now. And now they're showing me, I see little people. It almost kind of reminds me of, is it Fantastic Planet with the little human, where they had the little human pets. It's almost like they're crawling up through the webbing, kind of, and looking around, and there's just this, and it's very much like a naked thing. They're coming out naked. They're coming out fresh, but as adults, But it's that looking around, and it's this newness, it's this sense of wonder, it's the sense of, they're just they're just looking around in wonder as they break through the web and start to gain that perspective. All right. What's next? All right, the sun is rising. The sun that was at the horizon before at sunrise, it's rising, and it's almost like it's melting the web. And there are people, the ones who were kind of making their way out of the web and looking around in wonder and, I want to say, cautious delight. They're looking out through, but there are some people that as the web melts away, it's like they're exhausted. It's like they were fighting against it so much, and they're just laying down almost like in a fetal position. A little bit of fear, but primarily exhaustion. Like, I've been fighting this so long, I don't have it in me anymore. They're in that state of, having given up, rock bottom. But it's that rock bottom where, the only way to go is up, where you get the impression that they're just lying there exhausted. I mean, I literally see them in almost like a Matrix-like goo from the movie The Matrix. That is kind of drying around them with the sun, so it's a little bit, it almost gets kind of hard. And they eventually lift their head, and there's still a weariness. But it's okay, I don't know if this is my analogy or the one they're giving me, but it's the idea of, like, you're in bed and you're in the covers and you're so comfortable and you don't want to get up, and it's like a little cold in the house, and if you get up from the covers you're going to be cold, and you really don't want to get out of bed because it's so great there, but you really, really, really have to go to the bathroom, so you've got to get up, right? And their position isn't necessarily comfortable. It's completely neutral. They're actually not in a space of, rock bottom negativity. They've reached a point of pure neutrality, but it kind of like feels like nothing to them, so they're not quite sure what to do with it. But they kind of break out of it, and they're kind of looking around as they break out of it, and and again, it's not like I'm getting out of this or anything. It's more like, oh God, I gotta get it, and it's crack, and crack, and finally they're standing up, and all these bits are falling off of them, and it's then they become the same kind of newborn naked look about them, even though they're adults, with fresh pink skin, and they don't realize it because they're not quite there yet. They don't recognize that their bodies are fresh and new, that their hair and their eyes are shining, that everyone I see has perfect muscle tone definition, the ideal amount of body fat, everything is shining and clean, and just the ideal human self, physical self. But they don't recognize it yet. It's very new to them. The sun is a little bit bright for them. They're not quite sure what to do with it. And then I see the ones that had popped their heads out. And I also see the Awakened Collective kind of reaching from above where the spider webs were. And everyone's kind of helping. everyone's, here, take my hand. I can help you through this. It's just really beautiful to see. And there's a sense of cautious wonder. It's almost like they're not afraid. They're not necessarily thinking in negative terms, but it's almost like they have the memory of the fear and the pain and all the things from the 3D, and they're not feeling it now, and they're not quite sure what to do about that. And it's not quite like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but this feeling that doesn't encompass the pain of dualistic 3D living, they're not quite sure what to do in a world that doesn't have that. But yeah, everybody's getting help, and it's just this chain. It's so beautiful. There's this chain. Sorry, the cat. I probably should have made sure the cat's had food before I did this. I have a feeling he wants food. But believe me, they're not starving. They free feed, so they haven't been without very long. Sorry, let me go back into that. It's this chain. It's, one person helping another, who then helps another, who then helps another, who then helps another. Until everyone is up there. And, some of them are still trying to learn how to navigate in this space. Yeah. And while this is happening, and it's both concurrent and after everybody gets helped up, but it's also happening as people are being lifted up. It's like, you help someone up and then you kind of turn around and you see, oh, the earth needs help here, be it for climate change or pollution or whatever. So they go do the work on earth, or they go, I've helped this person up and I see that their history is one of, squalor, living in poor conditions, and either I am a carpenter or an electrician or whatever, or I know someone, and you help them build a house, or you see that their history is that of food deprivation, and you give them a sandwich and help them plant a garden and teach them to fish, or maybe fishing, I'm assuming we're not going to go into vegetarianism or anything there. It's like as you help someone up, you see the need that they perceive they have, and you use all the tools at your disposal to meet that need. And as more and more people come out of it, the network grows larger and larger. Maybe you've built them a house, but maybe somebody over here is like, did you know you could build a house out of these materials, and you can, hook it up to a free energy machine or something, and everybody has a med bed. Did you know that you can do a house this way? And so each iteration of people helping people gets better and better and better as more skill sets go into the fold, and also as we are connected more with our higher selves, with our higher vibration. So we're getting better and better ideas, and it's just exponential. It just feeds off each other. Yeah, it just keeps getting better and better. I can't just, and the level of innovation and creation and, it's beyond anything that we're currently aware of. And it's all just grassroots, people helping people. I know a guy who knows a guy, and, I have a little extra of this. Would you like some? And I can't even talk. The love that just permeates all of this and it's not, a lot of times it's like you have pity on someone, so you give them a little of this or you give them a little of that. It's not pity. It's, you are a facet of God, and this is your birthright, for lack of a better way to put it. You are meant to live in beauty and creation and all this love, and and that builds exponentially too. And it's just, I see these little sparks of light everywhere, and as like one light lights up, and then all the little like the spokes of a wheel almost, except it's, in all directions, all dimensions. It goes to the next person, and it lights more lights, and it's just this beautiful grid of light. And there's a point where the light just like explodes. And I think that's when we all reach 5D, and I'm not sure I have words for that. It's not an explosion like a nova or something. It's just all of a sudden it reaches critical mass and just everything glows. But it's such a peaceful thing. It's a combination I can't describe because it doesn't exist now. But it's like if you took that dusk and comfort and, the heavy-weighted blanket I mentioned earlier, and you combined it with, the brightest light of love and magic and creation that you can imagine, and somehow those things became one, where the brightest bright no longer hurts your eyes, and it's not, when is the other shoe going to drop, or, I see all this light, where is the darkness? I'm waiting for the darkness to come back in because it always has, and, we can't have too much of a good thing. All that's gone. It's all a good thing. And I'm reminded of what Bashar has said before when he talks about you're still aware of the negativity. You just, it just doesn't even occur to you to choose that. It's, I'm getting a sense here. I want to make sure I'm not right, but they're saying to go ahead with what's come into my head. It's almost like the heaviness of, the negativity that we've experienced in 3D somehow contributes to the light. I don't know if I can describe this. It's like the heaviness of the negativity is part of that all-encompassing, like that weighted blanket. It's not that it creates a base for it. I'm sorry, I can't adequately describe it, and what I've said so far doesn't quite adequately describe it. Let me see if they'll give me. They're showing me an ocean with different drops of water, and I'm not quite sure where to go with that. The neutrality of the ocean, the idea that if the ocean is made up of, a gazillion drops of water, some of those drops of water will be negative and some will be positive and some will be neutral. But the ocean itself is I don't want to say placid because the ocean isn't quite placid, but it's the idea that you've got, in general, like a placid ocean, with periodic squalls, and, you can have the ocean just lapping very gently on the shore, or you can have, the tidal waves or something going through. But the ocean itself maintains that neutrality. And that's the closest I can come. I'm sorry. All right, is there anything else? They're saying look up the meaning of spiders, which I'll do afterwards. I'm not going to attach anything to the video on that. I'll let you all do that yourselves if you're interested. They're showing me a hawk. Why are you showing me a hawk? I think that's just for me. I see hawks when I travel. No, they're sending me back. All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm closing the circle. I always set up the circle before I come on because that takes time and it seems silly to... Okay. All right, that was that. Yeah. Okay, thanks.